Peace and blessings, everybody. Welcome to the Heritage Hip Hop Podcast Tonight, we have a very special guest coming on the program tonight. But before we get into the program, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure that you follow Heritage Hip Hop as we introduce one of your future favorite artists, if not someone that you followed for years tonight. And without further ado, let's get this show cracking. Let's go.
So let it be written, so let it be done.
Welcome back to Heritage Hip Hop. Yeah, I got a hoodie on today, but we're going to end some of this hoodie stuff. Let's get the screen right because I want everything to be perfect for tonight. Take this off. Yeah, man, we back. Welcome back to the premier podcast of New Jersey Hip Hop, Heritage Hip Hop, where we introduce you to your future favorite artists today while celebrating the foundation of our hip hop culture and bringing you the new faces that will evolve and be the evolution of your understanding and genuine love for this culture. Today, I have a special guest on the show who embodies living testimony. That's for one. And before we bring him on tonight, I just want to say real hip hop comes from the heart and the soul. It is shown or heard through your speakers and your headphones, but it has to come from somewhere genuine to exist and for it to be sufficient to be shared with the masses. With that understanding, hit the like button, comment during this broadcast, and share the video. I would love for you to subscribe to Heritage Hip Hop for this and more. And also, if you'd like to donate to Heritage Hip Hop, our Cash App is $Heritage Hip Hop. And you can look us up on PayPal too at Heritage Hip Hop. The artist I have today has been in the game for some time. If you know who Immortal Technique is, then you may know some of his history. He has a new album out that's a statement maker, but I want to talk to him about not only his past and bring people up to the understanding of who he is when it comes to those who are closed-minded, when it comes to the art, the culture, the soul, and the geography of the culture, especially in New Jersey. I'm just waiting for him to pop up on the screen so we can start it up. It looked like he's here. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it takes a special man to make me run out for an interview, and I had to run to get this one. Everybody, I got one half of my second favorite. Y'all heard me say this, my second favorite New Jersey hip-hop group of all time. Number one is the Artifacts. One half of that, and not only that, a brilliant mind who stands strong at his spot. Ladies and gentlemen, this is CF.
What's good?
Whoa, what's going on, bro?
What's good, Legend? Thank you for having me on your show. It's always a pleasure with you specifically. You've always supported. You've always been 100% authentic Jersey representative, and you always allowed there to be a platform for artists such as myself who comes from this great state that we've been rocking from for God knows how long. You know what I'm saying? So big ups. Thank you for having me here. Heritage Hip Hop all day.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to get to talk to you again. We don't really get to be in each other's land and space. So whenever I get to talk to you, it's always a pleasure. It's something that I always look forward to because the Bible says when you meet a wise man, we're at his doorstep. You take a pen and a pad and you document his words. And since I followed you on Instagram, you've been dropping jewels about history, about your personal journey in life, and about staying strong through adversity. Why do you think a man has to take such a philosophical and warrior's principle when it comes to living his life?
I normally draw back from my ancestry. Being Puerto Rican, we mix with indigenous, West African, Black, and European. But that indigenous and West African, it has a warrior essence to it. You know what I'm saying? And they were out there. That essence still lives through me. That essence still lives through a lot of us still here today. None of that unbroken chain from back then to now still goes on, and it exists within our music. The griots, you know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times those people that were doing griots were men. They were men in their village. They probably were the elders. They probably were the chiefs. You know what I mean? I take this hip hop shit very seriously. It's very sacred to me. So, I never try to defame. I try to go back into history. I try to make sure that I'm keeping in line with those ancient griots from back then. And I look wild light and shit like that. But nonetheless, my spirit is connected to that ritual that's gone on since time immemorial, and we bringing that out here. So like there always has to be in a society. I feel like today we lack that. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people that don't have fathers, men specifically, and even the title Jegna means it's an Abyssinian word for like wise counsel to a warrior king in transition to be a warrior prince in transition to become a king. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people miss out on that. They say people of color, specifically like probably even black folks, Puerto Ricans, don't have any leadership out there, no men in the house. But the essence of the Jegna through the griot still exists in the music if people tap into it and see what the value in the music and what it can do to change people's lives and change the culture of what is currently going on in our society today. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yes, I truly do. And you jumping way ahead. I'm glad you doing that
My bad,
because
legend.
no, you great, yo. Because let me tell y'all something. For y'all who don't know, a griot was by slang term called the walking library. That was a person who had the history, the knowledge, the know-how. The knowledge was the understanding, truth, and insight to the history of their people and their culture. And the Jegna, as he stated, was another extension of knowledge in the community and in the culture that not only moved it forward but guided it through principle. You know what I'm saying? And when you first put out the project Jegna, I was like, what the hell? And I was going through my history and I saw the Abyssinian word, but there's a group called the let me get it real quick. There's a group called the Association of Black Psychologists, and they have a Jegnaship,
Hmm.
which is based on principles and um leadership. And it says, and one of them said there's three things a person must do to be a Jegna. You have to find continued enjoyment in learning and assessing new information. Number two, find creative and innovative ways of leveraging your own genius. And number three, which is the most important besides your genius, is being brave enough to address and cope with your own personal pain and trauma.
Hmm.
It says these are the three main elements that help a person live healthy and wholesome in a lifetime. Unfortunately, doesn't. Hip hop is a culture that's supposed to be defined on love, peace, unity, and having fun. But the business of hip hop does not believe in fullness and wholesomeness. As an artist who does hip hop, but there's the business sector of it that tears the culture down. How do you stand strong against the business but hold the culture accountable as you do the art within it that is business savvy as well?
That's a deep question. As an artist, when I look at the music that we are currently doing with music as in hip hop, I mean, I'll take back to like what they do in Puerto Rico with Afro Puerto Rican music, like bomba, which has been around since the 17th century and originally came from Ghana. And Afro-Cuban music, I look at it as a folkloric perspective. Like I'm a folklorist and I'm keeping with tradition. I try to stay out of what's going on with the industry, and because the industry tends to pigeonhole people and state that there's like they're really adamant about ageism and things like that. And if you know, like West African music transplanted in the New World in the Americas, or even back then, there is no ageism. Like it's always the OG or the elder one who's actually the griot more than anyone who's younger. You know what I'm saying? Because they're the keepers of tradition. What we have is going on is a reverse trend now. through music and the capitalistic endeavors of hip hop. Not initially where it came from and what it started from in the South Bronx, where it was addressing people's pain and it was a platform and an outlet for people to speak against whatever system was oppressing them at the moment. You know what I'm saying? But now it looks like it's an extension of capitalism, which is not. There's nothing wrong with capitalism. I like to make money as well, but there's something greatly wrong with tradition and tainting that tradition through just means of monetary gain. That shit is like, that destroys it. It destroys the culture as well, because everything is just a super fast culture, get this culture, drug culture, this, that, and the third, and they missing the essence of what this whole shit is about. You know what I mean? So I when I look at myself, I see myself as a person that is doing this as if the Smithsonian was documenting my shit, or if they sponsored my shit for an album to be put in the Library of Congress. There's so many traditions that are exist in the United States that are not being noted, like the broom players of Texas, you know what I mean, in the gospel churches there, the flute players, or the of the Mississippi Delta, the Geechee and all that stuff, the bambule that used to be played in Congo Square, bomba in Puerto Rico, since Puerto Rico is considered a territory of the United States, and still the African traditions have still gone on since God knows, quite some time, and still going on to this day, because in Puerto Rico we never lost the drum. You know what I'm saying? And there's something powerful about still having the drum and retaining that. But I look at it from that perspective. I don't look at it from like what the other side of the other music. And I know that there has to be monetary gain. I mean, I myself like to generate some sort of money so that I can exist. But my personally, for me, I would feel better by making sure that the music that I'm doing is pure and true to my constituents and my fandom, as opposed to getting some money and compromising my music and what it is, just so I could gain a little bit more money and flash. I don't know. I'm old school like that, so it is what it is. And that's a typical thing about Jersey too, because Jersey, since we always like outside and isolated from other places, we tend to have more keepers of the tradition than people would know. Like Egypt had like, it had Egypt and Nubia. Nubia kept the traditions more than Egypt. And then when they took over Egypt, the 25th dynasty reinforced that. You know what I mean? They already was like kind of soft with the Hittites and all that, or even in like what happened in Spain, southern Spain, Andalus. The black Moors that came from sub-Saharan Africa, south of Mauritania, came in and reintroduced that force of Islam back in again, aside from the Berbers and the Arabs that were already there, keeping Islam going. They brought it and reinforced it because they were recent zealots. They were, recent converts, and they were more zealot for the religion or whatever. So it shows you like sometimes as Jerseyans, we outside of the box, but that just makes sure, because we outside the box, we fight so hard to keep the tradition going even harder. You know what I mean? So to me, as a resident of the state of New Jersey, representing this culture of hip hop, it's just something about us here that we are just like, we are. If one day, I bet you, if they go back and they look and they be like, shit, hip hop died, it's still alive in Jersey. You know what I'm saying? Because you know what I mean. We got people like uh uh poor righteous teachers. We got people like Tretch. We got people like Chino XL. We got people like Redman that came in here and they just like, they don't know how amazing these contributors are to the culture of the hip hop in general, but to our state. You know what I'm saying? Like, our state is a special place, man. We had a lot of stuff going on here. I mean, this is the state of Paul Robeson. You know what I mean? This is a lot of powerful stuff going on that people don't know about what happens in Jersey. So I want to be a spokesman, and I want to contribute to that legacy, specifically through hip hop. But I hope that answers your question. I know I was ranting on, but normally I want to keep more in line with as a purist, as when things get crazy and hip hop morphs to something else, when they look back and they want to find out what was pure hip hop, then there's always those people that are not now, probably not now, but in the years to come, consider the folklorists, consider the keepers of tradition. And that's the type of person I would like to be known as. I think there's more respectability with that than anything else, if that makes any sense. You
That
know what I
makes
mean?
perfect sense. That makes perfect sense because at the end of the day, if hip hop really is a culture, it has to follow the guidelines, and the record is one of the main guidelines of a culture. Because if there was no record of it, did it really exist? You see what I'm saying?
That's
And, s-
100%.
Yeah, shout out to the people tuning in. We got Capital Games. Shout out to the brother Capital Games. Y'all know Gangstar, you know Capital Games, RP Guru. And we
Yeah, it's a
got
legend.
yeah, and we got one of the best artists in Jersey in there. Stress, you know what I mean?
That's
Artist and
dope.
producer, which I'm trying to link people up. You know what I'm saying? So we get some good things going on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
But
legend.
being that we're talking about the history and the morality, let's talk about some history first, because for those who may not know you, you've already touched the industry. You have some industry experience. Why don't you tell them about that, so they don't think, Heritage Hip Hop is only about talking to independent artists who are new, who don't have any industry credentials. Tell them about yours.
Yeah, I mean, like I've been in the game since probably '93. Like in '96, I was on Bobito and Stretch with my boy Don Teak. Don Teak was signed to Epic Street at the time. Um, he was even on the remix, one of the remixes for like the Groove Theory song "Tell Me If You Want Me To" and all
All
that shit
right.
like that. We had a close friendship, or he did, with Lord Jamal. So I would visit Lord Jamal's crib, when he was producing for Dead Prez and stuff like that. I used to rhyme with a best friend of mine named Juan, or Saya. Saya, that was his name. He was murdered in '99 by his girlfriend or whatever. So I started getting back into the open mic scene again in back in 2000. Uh, and that's where I met Immortal Technique at the end of the week show, the infamous, the known end of the week show. I don't know if anybody else knows. Like, end of the week shows, like, coincidentally, when I first started going to the end of the week show, I'd seen like fellow Jersey heads like Hami Hom and, you know what I'm saying, PAP, all of them. They was rocking. They from out, I think, from the Bricks or East Orange or Irvington. What, I don't know where they was from, but they fucking was legends at that time. So I was always, and they still legends today. So I was on there competing with them at these challenges that they had at the end of the week show. The Mortal Technique, see me, see my performance, see my aggression. You know what I mean? I guess he was Peruvian, I'm Puerto Rican, so he must have been like, yo, And then eventually he told me, yo, one day I'm gonna take you on tour. This pre 9/11 shit. After the buildings dropped, his album already came out before that. It ended up becoming like super famous. And then like 2008, he hit me up to be on a track called Young Lords. It was me, him, Punkerhead, rest in peace to Punkerhead, and Joel Ortiz. And then that started the relationship of me going on tour with Immortal Technique, and then eventually signing with his label known as Viper Records. I used to rock with, well, I still rock with the homies Creative Juices in Brooklyn, so I was kind of like signed to them prior, and then I got signed to Immortal Technique and officially dropped the album in 2014 called Ascension. I've been on, like, obviously, like I said, I've been on Bobito and Stretch. I've been on Underground Railroad with Jay Smooth. I've been on Tim Westwood in London. I've been on Hot 97 with the Hot Box. I've been on Hip Hop DX. I've been on BBC Asia. Man, Rappers Out of Control with DJ Eclipse, who's a legend. So I got like an extensive. You could say I got a jacket. I got a record of being in this game since quite time, continuing since '93 to currently now. But started out like in '96 going out there. In the beginning in Jersey City and downtown where we lived at was mainly Puerto Rican and black and Italians, mainly Puerto Rican and black. We would hop on off the path on to get to 9th Street, and then on 9th Street, you got Fat Beast right there, Papayas, you get something to eat, and then you go down to Washington Square Park, and then you start battling people from all over. Being that we were the early in Jersey City, downtown Jersey City specifically, is like one of the closest access points to Manhattan. So it would be like just, we just go in there and rock. I saw the Ice Outsiders out there. I seen mad other heads that would go also from the bricks out to Washington Square Park and do their things too. So, you know what I mean? It was not only me. But when you come from Jersey, you gotta go harder than people who come from New York. You seen it with like Arsenal, you seen it with like all them other battle rappers that come in there and do what they gotta do. You see it with the homie Ransom. You already know what you see with Buttons. People might discard Buttons, but he a legend. He a legend in many, many aspects. So, and I met Buttons and Ransom. Ransom, my homie. We went to high school together. You know what I mean? We went to Ferris High School together. He lived on Montgomery Street by New Houses. I lived on Second Street, so we would intersect there, whatever. So I knew him before he was robbing and shit like that. So my my history goes back, but I knew Don Teak since like '94, and me and him been rocking since God knows when. And we formed a group together called Billion Man Rebellion. We dropped albums as well. So from Ascension to the Billion Man Rebellion projects, and now to my own project again called Jegna. So it's a long history out there.
Nah, that's peace because people need to know you got to put your resume out there. And when I got introduced to you, let me tell you a funny story, yo. When I got introduced to you, right, I was with my man's Fire Jaws, and we was at the last show. What was I forgot the venue. It was the last show.
It was an FM. It was FM in Jersey City because
I don't
FM
remember.
had their last date because were gonna close their break a leg
Yeah,
with my
break a
man
leg.
Kosan.
Yep, yep.
You know, because he been out there doing his thing. He been repping Jersey City, putting a lot of shows together. That he the
Hmm.
one that actually kept that essence of hip hop through his shows in Jersey City. And he allowed BMR with his platform to rock or whatever, just to get our feet wet again and shit like that, even though we was already known. But he had this one venue that was really dedicated to showing real Jersey City authentic pre-gentrification hip hop.
Hmm.
And they wasn't scared and shit like that. It was bugged out. So we would go out there and we would rock, and you was there for the last show when they was gonna shut it
Hmm.
down, which is sad because that to me would be considered like a, how the homies, the people out there in them punk rock dudes, they got that, I don't know, CBGB. I don't even know the name, Legend, but you already know, like
Yeah, yeah.
that was their spot, that was a landmark. Or you got Birdland for like the bebop era and shit like
Hmm.
that. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
To me, that's kind of what FM was becoming, but they wasn't gonna let that shit rock like that. And that's when the homies had to. I guess they sold they joined, and that was one of the last shows that um Break a Leg promo company had at that spot. And that's where I
Word.
think we met at. I believe,
That's
Legend. I believe.
that's where we met. But look, this is how it happened. I was there with my man Fire Jaws, and I was doing camera work for him on stage. And shout out to Hayes the kid. He was out there. Mama
Yes,
Rejects, love you, sis. You know
that's
what
a
I
great
mean?
homie right there. That's a great
Yeah,
homie.
so
That's a
we was
fact.
watching everybody rhyme and everything. So I was like, all right, y'all, I got to get to work tomorrow. And I was like, all right, it's kind of late. And we walking out the door. Then all of a sudden, we just heard mad energy. We stopped. We remember the big Biggie and Puff and Hypnotized video with this turn around
Yeah,
go,
yeah, yeah,
oh
yeah.
shit. That's how I got introduced to you. We was walking out the door and then we heard like and then I looked at him, he looked at me, we was like, and we saw you on stage just going, but I was like, who the fuck is that? You know what I'm saying? And I was like,
Yeah,
nah, we can't leave. We can't leave. Nah. And then at the end of the night, I was like, yo, I introduced myself to you. I was like, yo, I like what you did up there, yo. I was like, yo, we got to build. And you said, yeah, Legend, we could build. And look where we at today. You know what I'm saying? They have a
yeah.
saying, real recognize real. And look, everybody, we here with
You
CF, the
you
best and the realest.
Yo, you wild. You always been real. I hope your platform gets beyond where to universal levels. Because what you doing for the state is something that's very special. You know what I mean? And I already known that you've been wild, genuine. I've been in your show mad times. You let me rock and do my numbers, and I like to be one day known, or a person like you and myself be in the Jersey Hall of Fame for the stuff that we done, because of the fact that we really do this because we love this shit. We ain't doing this shit because of the fame, and people look at us like whatever, but we really love this shit. We really love our state. We really love the culture of hip hop from our state, because shit, when hip hop first started, the homie Sugar Hill Gang, they really was for Jersey. Let's be real.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So like Jersey in hip hop has had its connections since the days of God knows when. I mean, in Jersey City, we had Sweet Slick and Sly. Sweet Slick and Sly, one of the I'll Be Out's father was a Sweet Slick and Sly. He has a
Mm.
connection to the origins of hip hop in Jersey City. Hip hop, if hip hop didn't exist, the Chilltown era of what is Jersey City, where Puerto Ricans and blacks was most numerous, would never be known. They trying to do that away with that right now, since the buildings drop and the further development, and just sweep over that like it never existed. So I'm here through my music as a testimony that that time period existed before the white flight of the homies bouncing. You know what I mean? When industry failed, when there was no jobs, and it was just Puerto Ricans, blacks, and Italians or whatever living in the shadow of the Twin Towers, until the Twin Towers dropped and there was rapid development with these construction and gentrification. You know what I mean? I already know inevitably a gentrification was gonna happen, but it was expeditiously brought. It was expedited after the buildings dropped. You know what I mean? It is what it is. So I was around that time, and Jegna is certain pieces that I'm speaking on this project that is a callback to that era because it's a forgotten era. And believe me, they would be reluctant to recognize that. They would love to wipe me off the board clean, like nothing, like our culture didn't exist, and then have murals of us many years later when people look back to find out what happened during that period. You get what I mean, Legend? It would just be so convenient for them to get rid of all of that shit. Like, oh, that's the hood element of what occurred that time. No, we were the only motherfuckers when nobody was around that kept this shit where it was at. And we didn't have any political representation. We didn't have a lot of people in office. We just had the numbers. And probably we didn't even vote. That's why we are where we are today. But that essence is still there. That piece of history is still there. And it's historical because it's connected directly with the Twin Towers in the backdrop. You know what I mean? That's a story. People don't know. They think that, Twin Towers, yeah, from Manhattan. But if you come to Jersey City, in downtown specifically, on the waterfront, when there was no guardrails, people go out there, play their drums, people go out there, dance, drink, have their liquor. They're still part of a ritual. That's still part of a bembe. That's still part of a arreto, whatever the Tainos call it. There's still those traditions that were going on that weren't documented, that weren't spoken about, and are now almost forgotten about. So I'm a keeper of that as a Jegna, as a griot. I'm a keeper of those traditions to make sure you don't forget about us because that was a significant piece of history that should be known and highlighted. There should be like actually movies about this shit and all that shit because it's historical. It's part of history, Legend. And I'm a part of history. And I believe that you obviously are part of history because of what you're doing. You documented on NJ culture. You know what I mean? It's NJ culture. When people look at it and they look at what's culture in the United States, culture in the United States is African American culture specifically because people had to create, unlike Puerto Rico where people got the drum, unlike the diaspora where people have the drum, African Americans had to create everything from scratch. They had to create everything from scratch. They had to adapt polyrhythmic patterns to instrumentation that wasn't all African, wasn't on drums. You know what I mean? And that's made a dynamic mindset, which made this specifically American, uniquely American. Whereas other music in Puerto Rico, when we got the drums, you could tell that's from Africa. You know what I'm saying? You could tell that when we rock, as if it's a guembe, if it's a olade, if it's a cuña, if it's a sika, if it's a ola mula. There's so many different. There's like 32 different rhythmic variations to this one musical form, and they play differently depending on the town. It shows you like in a small island of Puerto Rico, that's only 100 miles going north. East to west, and then 20 miles north to south. African traditions were different according to each town. Imagine the United States, Legend. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah,
Imagine. So, like, when I'm looking at that from a small perspective from my own people, and then seeing it from what I see here, like, wow, people don't untake in the fact that how deep the culture is, how deep that the culture that they have here is distinctly American culture. And what we doing through hip hop is something that's distinctly American. Even though it's from the griot traditions back in the days, it's still uniquely American because throughout the diaspora, there has never been a situation where people were stripped of the drum except the United States of America. You know what I
facts.
mean? So like when we talk about we talk about something that's revolutionary. People won't say that, but that's exact. This is American culture, whereas Black culture in the United States is specifically American United States culture, and that's something that can't be disputed. And that's gangster. That's
It
wild
is.
gangster.
That is because to hip hop. I believe hip hop came from God. It's just called hip hop because that's what we termed it today. But
Fact.
expression has always been a part of captivity and people in power. Because the people in power express themselves either through two gods. They express it either through warfare or greed.
That's deep. That's wild deep.
People who are in captivity show the expression in three ways: entertainment and worship.
That's crazy.
It's only in the dichotomy of life where you mix the two that things get crazy. Like think about it like this. Let's have a history lesson. Then we're gonna go into your music in particular.
Yeah.
Hip hop, as I said, is the only genre of music that's not really a genre of music. It's actually a way of life because you can't wear clothes and be called R&B. Only certain people can sing. Not the today's crap where everybody trying to sing, but only a little bit of people can really sing.
Yeah.
And the most of the singers are where? In churches or in bars, right? Then you have the blues. Once again, that's gospel music and it's also entertainment music, church and the bar. Then you have jazz. Jazz is slang because jazz is not a term of music. Jazz means how you move your hips. Jazz officially, jazz, I mean, in its first use, jazz meant sex. So when somebody said I was talking all that jazz, it means you're trying to get some booty. You know what I'm
Yeah, that's
saying?
deep. That's wild deep.
So if were doing jazz, it was changed to swing music because you swung your hips. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I found that interesting because as I study like Afro-Cuban music or even music throughout the Caribbean, but Afro-Cuban music specifically because of the fact that they retain certain you know, uh, elements that directly draw from where they came from in West and Central Africa. So you got the Abakwa, which comes from the Karabali region or Karabal region of Nigeria. You got the
Mhm.
Lukumi, which are specifically like Yoruba based from Nigeria or wherever, Yoruba lands gathered about. And you got the Paleros who come from Congo and things of that nature. And they still keep their spiritual traditions, there's all these distinct groups that still exist in one place and still have their ties to where they came from originally in Africa. Whereas the United States, African Americans, since they were stripped of whatever their identity was, in terms of religion, even though hoodoo still exists because it's connected to voodoo, which is from Haiti, obviously, they spirituality is very strong within the African community. In Puerto Rico, we have many words that express life force, and they're African words. You got sandunga, you got tumbao, you got mambo, you got uh Ache, you know what I'm saying? You got it's something about vibrant and being alive and life. And that's part of spirituality. So like that's why the church is so strong in the United States within the African American community because they wanted to do whatever they did before in terms of the religious worship. That's something that is in the soul from back then to now. But since they were stripped of it, they had to put it in the form of, as we have the Baptist music or Baptist church, whatever, or Christian stuff. I mean, people don't know that 20% of people that came here, like whether Wulu from Mandinga or whatever, from the fall of the Mali Empire, they was Muslim. People don't know that. In Puerto Rico, the first people to rebel, they don't even know that they was Muslim. They don't know that. You know what I mean? Like Akon will tell you that. They don't know that. You know what I'm saying? And those are the people that they got rid of first because they had the book, so they already learned. It was easier to deal with people that were animists and had more, polyistic kind of religions than it was to have someone that already knew about, you know, the Islam because they probably were more well read or well versed than other people, or whatever. It is what it is. Timbuktu, we already know. But so when the spirituality theme though exists, and that's why the African American church was so strong, and within that, that's why you got like gospel music, which still has the essence of that West African vibe because they got the call and response. The shit that killed me the worst is when I heard about what that dude Dylan Roof did, and I wish I could kill that motherfucker, because how can you go to a place which is sacred, legend, wild sacred, sacred to people, and then sit down with people, great people, and they feeding you in there. You don't understand. Like when you going in there, this different than the house of worship, legend. This is something from back then to now, and defile that shit. You get what I mean, legend? Because what you're doing is, and rest in peace to all the people that passed away from that.
Surely.
Obviously, um, this might be harsh words. I'm just being real. Not that I'm advocating for violence. I'm just saying like, people should be. If you do shit like that, you should be dealt with accordingly
I agree.
because of what that means to people in the community, like that what you did right there, what it
Yeah.
means to the community and the connection, and how that church so strong it allowed people to survive in it as a kind of fortification.
Hmm.
Fast forward into now, like you said, how many genres of current African American music were birthed from the church. God, even I saw a movie with Elvis Presley, and he was going to Baptist churches or whatever, because he was a member of the community there. You know what I'm saying? He didn't even see. He was probably like Steve Martin in The Jerk. You know what I'm saying? He probably ain't know. I don't know, legend. But the way how they depicted his character in the movie was as if he was embedded in the community, and that's how he picked up the traditions and then popularized it and made it, consumable or palatable to white audiences or whatever. But I just thought it was wild interesting. But what you said about the church and the spirituality and how that's strong and how that's so strong here. Whenever I know I'm going to black church, I know that that means something totally different. It's way more. Uh, it's more uh sacred than it would be just going to an average church because of the what it is and what it means to people. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
People don't know that, legend. They don't even know that's the essence of all this hip hop stuff. That's the essence of all this music that we get here. It's in the black church. When people look at American culture, where does American culture come from in terms of like the culture that we see it as now? It comes from the churches. It comes from people having those the at least the time that they can to at least praise. You know what I mean? So that's another thing about hip hop. It always had a spiritual connection to it since that till now. You know what I mean?
Always, always, and that's why I always say hip hop is not music. Hip hop is our connection and expression to God through our circumstances, whether it's to be our joy, our pain. And just remember, y'all, because I don't argue with people about who's the goats and who's the top five. I don't really care because even Chuck D said hip hop evolves every 5 years and changes generations, right? And if
Mhm.
hip hop is what 40, 50, turning 50, it's turning 50, that's 10 generations. So think about it. It's a lot of stuff that's lost that we did not officially see or feel to know. But let me tell y'all something. The way I saw this man on stage, imagine if I was there live the first time Run did Run's house. You know what I'm saying? Madison Square Garden to basically diss everybody that was on the show before him. I
Yeah,
wasn't there
that's
for that. You know what I'm saying?
that's
Um,
gangster.
Yeah, but yo, imagine this. Imagine being at the Apollo when NWA first performed and mob style threw tomatoes at the stage. You can't make this stuff up and you can't
Yo,
just be
that's
like, yo, you know what I mean?
yeah. I mean,
You have
shit.
to be there for that. And just like I'm saying, some people talk about Fresh Fest, Up in Smoke, the Rock Tour, and all that. Those are different times. Hip hop is the only music that being there is synonymous to the effect of a song. We talk about the beats, we talk about all that, but being there to see it or hear it for the first time is life changing. Like, let's go into a life changing project right now. Let's go into Jegna. All
Yeah,
right. This gentleman dropped an album, Project Jegna, produced by Speedy Baby. Am I correct?
yeah. That's my man, Speedy. He a legend in Jersey City. He produces for a lot of people. He produced for Al Bial. He produced for various other famous artists, even Max B, I believe. So you know what I mean. He been in the game for quite some time. He just never get the super recognition that he deserves. You know what I mean? But just typical Jersey talent. But he's the homie, and he's actually like a cousin of mine because his brother is my best friend. His brother's the one that built this regiment, who built me up, got me into exercise, and got me into a different type of lifestyle, so I could be the Jegna that I am today. So you know what I mean. It's more of a family record than just doing something with the homie. If that makes any sense, legend.
No, that's perfect because that goes right into what I wanted to talk about when it comes to the project itself. I obviously bought the project. You know that. You know what
Thank
I'm
you
saying?
very much. I mean, I appreciate obviously I appreciate you from the ground up because you always been grassroots legend. Everything that you do is you really talk the talk, walk the walk when it comes to Jersey hip hop. You ain't even had to buy my project. You could have just listened to a band camp, whatever. But you know, you believe in me as an artist. You believe in what I'm talking about, and you know what I mean. I believe in you, and I see the belief is there because you're willing to actually put your dollar on it. You know what I mean? How many people want to buy records nowadays? Nobody. If they can stream it for free, if you bought it on it because you seen value in it, like they say something. There's a saying out there: people know the price of everything and the value of nothing. But you know that the record that I was coming out with was going to have more value, intrinsic value. There was going to be knowledge in it. There was going to be ideas on it, and it was going to be something specifically, like a historical document, a document of historical moments of Jersey, what happened in my part of Jersey on record. So like that's what I was trying to do. And when I write stuff, I think about you and other people that would appreciate me, because yo, there ain't that many people out there like that, legend. I ain't gonna front. It's not that I'm not super known like that, even though I've been on international platforms and all this shit. But it takes a real one to be like, nah, I fuck with you because I know that what you're gonna say is something that's not only gonna resonate with me, but resonate with the future generations to come from the place that we believe in so much. And that's why I'm really thankful for you doing that. Because all the proceeds that I get, that shit don't go to me, legend. I work a regular job, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like this shit goes to the next project or the mixing and mastering for the next project to come out. I got another project that I'm already in line to come out with called The Uninvited. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of history with that one that's gonna come out soon. So Jegna is only there to, it has a lot of meaning, obviously, but it also is the machine that's gonna finance the next project. As an artist, that all we do is it's like Cuba. Cuba, sometimes the state pays for the artists to do shit. Sometimes they just sponsored by the state. In the United States, we're not sponsored by the state. We got to come and create our own shit. You know what I mean? So when we come create our shit, we rely on the people. We rely on our fandom. It's just like a politician has his constituents, the artist has his fandom. But my fandom knows that I talk. I just talk straight from the heart. I don't know how to wear. Look at the way I look, legend. I don't even, say people look at me and be like, you don't look like no rapper or this, that, and that. I don't even give a fuck about that whole whatever is the look of a rapper or this, that, and the third. When I'm a keeper of tradition of folklorists, I seen some people. There was this dude that was playing some there's this dude, he looked white as fuck. He was playing Afro Puerto Rican music, bomba. He rocks harder than anybody else. He had to earn his spot to be there. You know what I'm saying? Because the keepers of tradition weren't they were more obviously African, more Afro. Even though Puerto Rico, we all mix. Even myself, I look white. My family's mixed with black, Indian, and white and shit. It's just that's the genes are mixed. We've been mixed for 500 years. First Americans happened in the Caribbean, in the Spanish speaking Caribbean, because the Tainos got decimated, the remnants of them, the Spaniards used their wives as concubines, and then they got the Africans sent over, and then the Africans intermingled, and it made a whole new race. It's bugged out. It made a race of three different groups of people that intermingle, who have all these different ideas about life, who came up from different places, because West Africa and Central Africa is nothing like the Americas, and the Americas and Central Africa is nothing like Europe. These are all three different groups that fused together and with different ideologies and came about only because of the byproduct of colonialism and shit like that. So when I'm speaking from a person I'm 24% Taino. That's like 1/4 of the people that no longer exist. I can't even speak their language, legend. They gone. I'm 12% black, and the shit come from like Cameroon, Congo, Ghana, Nigeria. How the fuck is that only, even within that small percentage, there's that much diversity? Because it shows you how diverse the Africans were that were brought. There were 31 different tribes brought to Puerto Rico. People don't know that. Now, these are people that had lives. These are people that had different ideas. These people that had different culture. People from Cameroon ain't sound like people from Ghana. People from Ghana ain't sound like people from Nigeria. People from Nigeria ain't sound like that. These were all different people that were just thrown together and said, now you gotta act like y'all one people. You know what I'm saying? So
That's
like,
called warfare.
it is warfare. There was a documentary I read where one dude in Puerto Rico was saying one lady in Puerto Rico said she wasn't going to mess with another person. They was in Guayama because she's from Carabali. Her family came from Carabali, and the other person's from Congo. They still sometimes retain their identity from that back then. It shows you how diverse even the Africans were. You know what I'm saying? That they were in different places. It's in the gene pool too of many Puerto Ricans. Every Puerto Rican got that African ancestor. That's just default because we in the Caribbean, and where the institution of slavery first began, and surrounded by other islands with majority black populations. We not in fucking Ireland. We're not in Argentina. Like, we know where we are. Arturo Schomburg, they say, is the father of African American history. They say he was from Puerto Rico. You know what I mean? The father of the Puerto Rican education system, Rafael Cordero, was a black Puerto Rican because the Spaniard Creole elite wouldn't let him learn. So he said, you know what, fuck y'all, I'm gonna start my own school and I'm gonna teach everybody. The father of the founding the statehood, the advocate for statehood party was black Puerto Rican, the founder of the nationhood of Puerto Rico, Ramon Betance, was a black or partially African Puerto Rican, and our most fiery independentista or revolutionary advocate, Harlem Hellfighter, Harvard educated, spoke 7 languages. Pedro Albizu Campos is black Puerto Rican. So our essence and identity comes from that. We draw from that. Those are Jegnas. And Rafael Cordero was definitely a Jegna because of the fact of he started the education system in Puerto Rico as we know it today. Him and his sisters, actually. It wasn't just him
Mm.
himself. So our education also is rooted within that kind of black education and shit like that. And
Salute to that. That's
you know
dope.
what I'm saying? So a lot of people don't know that. You know what I mean? They don't know what we know. And this ain't no woke shit. This just real shit. You know what I mean? People look at me like this. I learned a lot of shit from my teacher, Mr. Sloan Smith. I had no father growing up. No disrespect to my father. He just wasn't whatever. Fuck, he bounced, whatever. But when I went to school, you know what I mean? We had a lot of, white teachers, like some Italian teachers, you know what I'm saying? No disrespect to them, legend. They probably did their numbers, but they coming from out of town. They coming to get a check. Let's be real, legend. And Mr. Smith, Sloan Smith was a black, strong teacher, Diesel, and he was out there. He really cared about the community. He really cared about making sure we got our education. You know what I mean? You could tell there was that level of sincerity. There was that conviction. And I wanted to capture that on record. And that's why, that's another reason. That's a dedication to him on this Jegna joint. You know what I mean?
That's on the
Because
song Jegna, correct?
that's up. I didn't mention him on the song Jegna because
Okay.
the song Jegna deals with two.
Two
The
people.
The first one is a child that I used to raise or whatever, and him and
Okay.
his mother were already on the outs, and I knew I can't have children. I'm being real with you. You know what I mean? I
Mhm.
have a condition. I have a inactive mutated gene called cystic fibrosis. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Coincidentally, my name is CF, but it has nothing to do with that. So the
Okay.
only way I could have children was through IVF. And when I was with this girl, she was like, "I ain't doing that shit with you, but you can help me take care of my kid or whatever." So whatever, I was raising her child, and when I was raising her child, I'd speak in the song about like, me and your mom's is on the house. We already out here. It was like Lion King when you got the Mustafa, I believe, and then
Yeah,
his son
Mustafa's and
is
yeah,
Simba, and
yeah.
he's like, "Yo, you see this? This is your whole kingdom." But instead, that mountaintop was the Freedom Tower, because I used to go with him to the Freedom Tower because it was in proximity to where we lived at, and that
Mhm.
was basically our connection. I took him up there, and we would communicate, and that's the theme. That's the location of the story for that first verse is me taking him to the top of the Freedom Tower and then showing him like, this is all yours, this kingdom, but I can't be with you to see it all through the end. This is a road that you're gonna have to take by yourself. So as a
Mm.
Jegna, my job with you to transition you from prince to king is already done. And this is, like that. And the second verse was about you know, uh I had this dude named Gennaro T. Gargiulo. He was a white homie, half Italian, half Polish, older dude. He, I believe, used to work at Goldman Sachs, and he moved to Jersey City after he recently divorced. And he hired my best friend Juan to help him move. Like he just hired random motherfuckers in the hood to help him move. But he perceived that my best friend Juan was highly intelligent, and he's like,
Mhm.
"Yo, you know what? I'm about to start an investor relations firm. I'm coming to starting off my own business. I would like you to work for me. As like, calls, this, that, and the third." And eventually, my boy Juan started moving up in his business, but then my best friend Juan got murdered by his girlfriend. So I met Gene before, and he took a liking to me before that. He said, "You know what? On the strength of your best friend and the fact that we got other people that he picked up from the street to work in his office. I don't know if it was cheap labor, legend. I don't know if he was giving, you know what I'm saying? He was just hiring people from the street, but he gave him an opportunity to learn the business and investor relations. He dealt with small market cap medical device companies. So then he
Mhm.
got me to work there. He was going to sponsor me to get my Series 7. But unfortunately, when 9/11 happened, the economy went on a fritz, and he was trying to frantically put in money to keep us afloat just to pay us, and he had to shut down the firm. And then 2 months from him shutting down the firm, he died of a heart attack on a treadmill. And I mention that because those are stories that people don't mention. People will talk
Mhm.
like in the hood, "Oh, this is the hood, this or this, that, and the third." But sometimes you got some white homies that come out there and try to help out and try to, there's some stories that people don't talk about, and what happened during 9/11 and how the economy was a little bit on the fritz and some people were up in the air. And unfortunately, because of that, that led to Mr. Gargiulo's not demise, but you get what I mean. He ended up succumbing to the stress and then having a heart attack. That's a real story, legend. And that's why I put that on Jegna specifically, because he was my Jegna, just like Mr.
Mhm.
Sloan Smith was my Jegna. How many Jegnas do we got on throughout our life? Sometimes we got more Jegnas than we have in our life than fathers, right? Than a father. You know what I'm saying, Legend? So I didn't have no disrespect to my father. Again, we cool as fuck and all that, but he wasn't there during the pivotal moments of my upbringing, and I had to seek out other influences and shit like that. And that's what I'm highlighting on this record.
Thank you for telling that story because this album is actually full of stories.
That's correct, Legend. A lot of these, because that's the thing of a Jegna, or that's the thing of a griot or a griot
Mhm.
leader, or
Mhm.
it's about stories. Like when I used to listen, when you um listen to like some of the, and that's sad when you think about it, that people were stripped of the stories because it was oral traditions, Legend. They wasn't writing
Mhm.
shit.
Mhm.
They were the writers of this in the mind. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And it's how we lost that. A lot of people lost that, but the essence of that still exists.
Mhm.
So I was thinking about, like, I have to write story. Like Nas to me is a Jegna. Nas to me is a
Far.
griot. He's a just perfect example of what it is to be a griot. And I'm living in that kind of tradition. So I put these stories down there because a Jegna actually really tells stories. I think I was watching a movie recently based on a West African tale. It was King something. It was something about King, and it was talking about this dude that he had to tell stories in jail. He was in jail, and if he didn't tell a story or something at a certain time before the transition of power from one person who's the head of jail to the other one, he would be killed and shit like that. So his life depended on how good the stories he told. That shit was gangster, and that shows you how powerful a griot is and shit in their world, and how powerful it is in our world as well. Cause
That's our culture. That's what hip hop is, telling of the stories. But let me get to some of the tracks on the album because I wanted you to touch on at least three of them that really stood out to me.
hell yeah, Legend.
Mm,
Thank you.
mm. My favorite song on there, well, one of my favorite songs. Like I can't put it number one because the more I listen to the project, it changes. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you again for even listening to it. I really appreciate that, Legend. Because I
I
do it
love
for
it.
people like you. I do this for people like you. That's a fact.
Thank you because I love the project. And one of my favorite songs is Unmasked. Talk about Unmasked and what made that happen.
That's gangster. Because, when people were in the pandemic period and they were dealing with, masks, and, some right wing people were like, yo, don't get vaccinated or don't wear a mask. And I ain't even really give a fuck about all of that. My main objective was we've been having a pandemic. We had a pandemic with narcissism that people don't talk about. People switching masks all the day. That's been the real plague or whatever. So it's a story about me and a child in the beginning, and we go to the waterfront. Again, this all deals with, because downtown Jersey City is in proximity to Manhattan, so like the waterfront culture is really there and prevalent in the upbringing. And I'm taking this child and I'm talking to him about, you see what's going on right now in this day and age. There's also another plague that's going on called narcissism, and there's also people that are wearing masks and changing them constantly in order to hide from the true self, and that's the real worry. And this is why I was saying, like, be unmasked, be yourself, be true to you. But some people might take it as, oh, he's saying don't wear a mask or this, that, and the third. It ain't got nothing to do with that. That's the beautiful thing about, being a poet, is that you put things out there and things are subject to interpretation. But it's not even about that. In that first story is me talking to a child and telling them about, you know, and I had to even use a metaphor from Star Wars, from the Kylo Ren shit, because he, remember, Kylo Ren was living in the mask of his grandfather, Darth Vader, and shit like that. And I'm like, people be changing masks just in order for them to keep up with whatever the fakeness is at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the true plague or whatever. And then the second verse was talking about how people would reluctantly or conveniently like me to be dead because they don't want my truth to be told, especially people that suffer from that particular mental illness and shit like that. So that's why Unmasked has a really deep and double layered meaning. As an artist, you gotta, when you do a song, you know what I'm saying, you gotta make sure you plant the song correctly, and that it gives one impression, but there's really something else behind it, and you would have to look further to find out what the true um, meaning of that song is. And that's I'm glad that you allow me to touch on that topic. That's gangster.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite songs on there. I mean, the biggest mask everybody wears every day is a lie because no one's really ever truthful 100%, and the people that are totally truthful are the most hated people in the world.
That's why I was
Mhm.
mentioning that, like in the second verse. And even the child, when I was speaking to him, like he looked away from me because he was so distracted by whatever the current trend is. And it's just showing you reflection of what we have in this generation, where even they have all this information at their fingertips and they use it to see TikTok, saying cats on TikTok and shit like that, or dances and shit like that, or even come up with their own pseudo intellectualism, like believe and their own beliefs that have nothing to do with reality and shit like that. That's weird that we live in that day and age. So even me talking all this knowledge, the kid looks away and he's like, I'm like, shit, he doesn't even give a fuck about what I'm saying because of the fact that he's too young to actually internalize or digest the data. So it would take years for these things to take root. But me as a Jegna, I'm never going to stop speaking that truth because eventually it will kick in, it will manifest later on, probably years, when I'm not even when I'm in essence and not even in physical form. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. Talk to me about the song. What I think is a sleeper is unappreciated.
Man, Unappreciated is a real deep song because it has to do with two women. One girl was like my first. I think her name was Jaleesa, Anna or whatever. She ended up dying because of an overdose. Um And we got all these people that have these really great minds that them, but they're written off. You know what I mean? That's like people
Hmm.
that are crackheads, don't like kids, because
Mm.
they just a drug addict. But to us that knew them before they ended up, dabbling in whatever their habit was, we end up seeing them as something different. We had a connection to them as a human
Hmm.
being on an empathy level. So
Hmm.
I started talking to her because she was my first and all this shit, and what happened and how it happened and when she passed away or whatever, and it was just paying homage to her. It basically is like a take out of Tupac when he says you appreciate it, but in my shit is like, nah, we unappreciate it. We unappreciate it because, but I still value you even though the world doesn't appreciate you. I see intrinsic value in you, and that's why I had to encapsulate my interaction with you on a song, on a
Hmm.
record, so that the rest of the world knows that you was something other than whatever it is, even though you had your ways about you that weren't correct to the most. And the second verse is about this other girl that I know I messed with, who was really deep in materialism, and say she was caught up in that, but she never dealt with the true self. So she'll buy something, she'll get with she'll have different baby fathers that pass, and this, that, and the third, and she's never really dealing with the true self. She's masking all of that by purchasing, products to dress herself up to look nice, in order to, run away from her ugly past or ugly present or even ugly future, if that makes any sense. But even though whatever she's going to and what she's doing, I still appreciate her, even though the world doesn't appreciate you, because you feel unappreciated, and that's why you doing the shit you do. But I appreciate you because I know what it is to have that mindset, even though I don't engage in the same type of activity. If that You get what I mean, Legend? That's what
Oh
that meant.
man. And the heart of the album to me goes from unmasked to unseen, which is
Yeah,
very deep.
yeah.
Uh, Before we go into the song order, I want you to touch on Death Row East for me for first.
Man, Death Row East is something that I thought was, what I'm saying. First of all, like, people don't know this, but the majority of people in Tupac's group Outlaws were based in Jersey, right?
Hmm.
I think Tupac had a strategy where he was a warlike strategy, losing his Machiavellian philosophy to try to isolate New York by using Jersey and state that because Jersey is East Coast and Pac has his family in that part of the East Coast, and he was trying to like kind of isolate New York and then use Jersey as like the next New York, stating even in many times that Jersey was the new West. You know what I'm saying? Even with his Death Row East shit, I think that it was gonna really rely or be more about like the Jersey artists that he already had on Machiavelli
Mm.
or before Machiavelli or whatever. You know what I'm saying? With the Outlaws. And then another thing is people don't know this, but Tupac's biological father, uh, Billy Garland, is a member of the Black Panther Party from Jersey City. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? And people don't know that. So Tupac had real Jersey roots, even though he was from New York. But his father, his actual father. And I spoke to his father. His father didn't raise him, but what he says on record and the way how he has interactions are two different things. Things could be sensationalized, whatever. But his father is from Jersey City, worked in the incinerator department. I spoke with him on multiple occasions, and I mean it's a proven fact because they took the DNA test and confirmed it, and he looks just like Tupac. Even his grandmother, who lived in Jersey City, looks is how Tupac's make just looks just like him. You know that
Mm,
picture that they circulate on the internet of the lady. There's a lady, a picture of an older lady from the 50s, and then there's Tupac, and they look exactly alike.
mm,
That's his grandmother who lived in Jersey City, that Garland family and all that. You know what I'm saying? So Tupac really had Jersey roots. Probably he would have come in more into that as time would have went on. But that's what Death Row East was. Even though the bars on Death Row East don't mention none of that shit. Bars on Death Row
mhm.
East are just straight bars, stream of consciousness, bars just going hard. But it's also giving a call back to that Jersey essence. I never lose my Jersey identity on a record. It's mentioned somewhere or there's some sort of theme that goes back to it, but people won't know. And that's why I'm glad you asked that question, because Death Row East is a highlight of that. And it's also a callback and a shout out to Tupac and his idea of how he thought the future Jersey was, with his Death Row endeavor.
Love it. So, like I said, the meat of the project mostly is from unmasked to unseen. I want to give special relevance to one song and one video that I love. As soon as it dropped, I was like, it's on Heritage Hip Hop Instagram. Tell me about BGX before we close out about the album.
Man, thank you so much about that. So BGX Basement Graphics was a kind of art community center that was uh uh created by a guy named Cheese, Juan Vasquez. Juan Vasquez used to work at a local clothing shop. He for like this, some people. It was named Morley's in downtown Jersey City. He helped them diversify their catalog because it was old Jewish homies that owned the joint. They had like a mom and pop. It was a mom and pop store. They didn't know nothing about urban trends. He a young Puerto Rican homie, light skin. He already knew what the deal is. He helped them diverse their catalog, and they generated more money from it. And he stacked this money from him working there, and said, "Yo, you know what? There's no art center. There's no center for artists out here. There's no like a place where everyone could come in and they could do their stuff." So he created Basement Graphics, and then from there, Basement Graphics was actually in a basement. In the beginning, it started as a place where he did his you know uh painting and all that stuff, and then it ended up evolving into a studio, studio where like the likes of AZ used to record at, and a couple other heads, and then it ended up becoming a barbershop in there as well. Then from a barbershop, tattoo shop, magazine stuff, store. Like it was segmented in different. It's like going into a swap meet, like a miniature swap
Mhm,
meet and shit like that. And
mhm,
she started that, so I had to do a huge shout out to him. And in the BGX is where I met the likes of AZ, who told me one day, he's like, never quit, yo. One day you gonna be dope as fuck, or you dope as fuck, but you don't even know it. Like, you know what I mean? Meet Apache and shit like that, because Apache, he's from Jersey City, and his brother Lati worked for Flavor Unit, which was located in Jersey City back in the days. Saw Eric B from Eric B and Rakim, saw like Omar Epps, so many different legends that lived in Jersey City at that time, to get away from New York rent, would go down to the basement. And so I would be having access to these people and talk to them and shit like that directly. So I was just like, yo, you know what I mean? I was just like really super, super, super happy for all these legendary moments. And then the second verse was dedicated to Cheese because he used to leave his doors open. He, had like a program to redeem people that end up, getting locked up or were ex-convicts, so that he showed them like the trade, how to do like carpentry, how to do art in order for them to get a skill set so that they could survive and then, acclimate back into the culture of society or become productive members of the community. And then he also he would take in people that were suffering from drug addiction stuff and then try to help them wean them off of the addiction, and then help them uh try to get out of their addiction through art. So he had a different vision for people. It was so much thing. It was a rehabilitation center, it was an art center, it was a barber shop, it was a store. So many different ideas that he had there. Now you have these developers come in here and they have other artists who may be from Nebraska, far removed from the community, and they post paintings about fucking like daffodils and David Bowie or whatever, or whatever is used for the current regime to kind of like paint the city in a different direction, but not give light to those who actually started a foundation from grassroots for the city, for with the efforts of making the community better or giving an outlet for the community to create. You know what I'm saying? So like, and it was a time, it was a barbershop situation. There used to be a lot of blacks and Puerto Ricans. It was mainly black and Puerto Rican, just like hip hop, black and Puerto Rican. You know what I mean? I don't know what people talking about now. Some FBA types say Puerto Rican. I don't know about none of that. I wouldn't grow up, but when I grew up in downtown Jersey City, I grew up in a place where there was a lot of blacks and Puerto Ricans intermingling, having families together, and you know what I mean. That's the experience that I saw, and even all the Puerto Ricans that I knew, every Puerto Rican that I knew, somebody in our family was, quote unquote, what would be deemed black. You know what I'm saying? Hair texture, phenotype, you already know. It's hard to describe to people who ain't from that era. Like Puerto Ricans are no different than them Creoles for New Orleans, but we before them Creoles for New Orleans because we started 200 years before New Orleans existed. You know what I'm saying? So it's hard to explain that story without putting it on record or without someone like you giving me a platform for me to express these views so people could be like, now I see what's going on. But that's what BGX stands for. BGX is Basement Graphics. It was a community center spearheaded by a person named Juan Vasquez, aka Cheese, who's a pillar of the community in downtown Jersey City.
Salute to him. And one of the goals of Heritage Hip Hop was to document the history of Jersey hip hop. So everybody out there who try to say I'm only Newark centric,
Yeah.
as you see, you're wrong. So before we in this part, tell them about the album, why they should get it, where it's located, and your social media.
Yo, you know what I'm saying? The reason why you should get Jegna is because it's a piece of history in the state of New Jersey, specifically Jersey City, particularly downtown Jersey City, where Puerto Ricans and blacks were living harmoniously, for a good point, within the backdrop of the Twin Towers. So that has all disappeared, and I documented on record so that you guys can listen to it as a piece, as a historical piece that you could look at and be like, wow. And there's a lot of beautiful stories out there about so many other different communities that are also going through the same thing right now in our state. That's one. You can find my album. It's on all social media. It's all streaming platforms right now. It's on Spotify. If you look at CF Jegna, that's all you gotta look at. Or it's on Apple Music, CF Jegna, or it's on my Bandcamp, CF201. Just Google CF201 and Jegna. That's how I'm getting direct money through Bandcamp, because any proceeds that I get from that go directly to finance my next project called The Uninvited. You know what I mean? And The Uninvited got a dope ass story. That's a whole different vibe, and I can't wait to get that record done so you and me could actually talk about it, because I know you dig into the record. You know what I mean? I know that you are a type of person that really appreciate the music that come out. And yo, this is what I do it for. I do it for people like yourself, because ain't that many people like you, legend. I'm just gonna be real. And I'm so thankful and so grateful that there is someone like you that really digs into a record and really fucking appreciates the shit we do, because we put all these thoughts and these ideas and our money and our blood, sweat, and tears, and nobody really gives a fuck. But people like you really, really do give a fuck, and that shit make me feel better as a human being in general. You know what I'm saying? For my social media, y'all can hit me up at CF201 on anything. CF201 on Twitter, CF201 on Instagram, CF201 on Facebook. You already know that's my shit. My 201 is my area code, so just hit me up. CF for Constant Flow, Child Forsaken. Really, that's the original meaning of my name, Child Forsaken. But they started calling me Constant Flow in New York, whatever. But it's CF201. Hit me up. You already, legend.
All
And
right,
peace to
so
Don Teak. We're gonna come out with an album called Another BMR Joint. You already know that. That's another, Jersey traditional hip hop group. And we doing it from here. Peace to the legends, peace to Tretch, peace to Chino XL, peace to Govmatic, peace to Redman, rest in peace to Tame, you know what I mean? The whole artifacts that they legends, you already know. Word up. Peace to my man Harold. Peace to the homie Don T. Peace to Immortal Technique. Peace to my homie Souls. Peace to Speedy. Peace to Cheese. Peace to Ransom. That's the homie, you know. And rest in peace to the MCs in Jersey City who never gonna get their name known, who never got their respect. Rest in peace to Gats. Rest in peace to Rigor Mortis. Rest in peace to Dutch Master. They don't never talk about these people. They got murals of everybody else. They got murals of fucking hummingbirds, but they don't got murals of the real that actually love their city so much and had stories about their city, and they were griots in their own right, and they never got, you know, unfortunately their lives were snuffed out. Peace to Legend Black. You know what I mean?
Well,
Rest in peace to Legend Black. That's what I'm trying to say. So, you know what I mean? Legend, I'm out here to rep for them. Rest in peace to Brandon Magwood. That's the God. So everybody else, peace to Barbara Massage. She always got my back. Peace to everybody else that, you know, that fuck with me. I don't got a lot of people that fuck with me, Legend, but the people that do fuck with me really fuck with me. So I'm grateful for that. Peace to my homie Jujo. And I don't know, Legend, I can't even say no more. You know what I'm saying?
That's all good. But look, if you got connections to any of those people that people don't talk about no more, I'll highlight them on Heritage Hip Hop, because that's what this platform is all about.
I would definitely want to do that. Oh, I just want to say, guys of the basement, my man Big Zoo, and the homie Prolific One, and homeboy Sandman, a real one. Like
He
he never,
nice, yo.
yeah, he a real one. Like me and him text and shit, and we talk like just regular people. You know, I'll never jump on no. That's one thing about people for Jersey. One time I saw Nas when I was in Switzerland, and I'm with Immortal Tech and my man Hassan Salam, and I'll see Nas, and Nas a legend to me, legend just like Redman is, right? You know what I mean? I come from that era. You remember back in the days we ain't had no dedicated hip hop. There was no Hot 97. You out of here, fucking KR. You out of here. Red Alert rotate some shit for 4 hours on Kiss FM, whatever.
Like 2 in the morning.
Yeah, and then then you turn the dial. There's 99.5, and you might hear J Smooth by chance, and then you got to hear Bobito and Stretch on 89.9. Legend, we ain't had no dedicated shit like that. You know what I'm saying? So when I started seeing shit, I even forgot what the fuck I was saying. Like
you met Nas in Switzerland.
Yeah, so I see Nas in Switzerland, Legend, and I just did one of these. You know what I mean? I ain't even be like, yo, and I was around Legends. When you around Immortal Technique, you already know that he a god in his own right. So he taking you a spot in his own legend. It's like you with Jesus, why he talking Elijah and Moses and shit on Mountain of Olives. So I'm out there and I'm looking, I'm like, that's what's up. But I just did one of these. You know what I mean? In the lobby of the hotel, like it is what it is. And he's like, yo, I like you people for Jersey. Like y'all really, really not about that fame shit. We not about that corny shit. Because of the fact we've been through the real. Even outside of New York. New York gotta be stuck in the lights and all that shit from Town Square. We see that shit from outside, Legend. We unplugged from that. We're not caught up in the narcissist shit. Because you remember, you even seen American Gangster, the cop that that had to take down the other cops was from Jersey. He wasn't from New York because they was caught up in a narcissistic bullshit. We outside of that bubble, and I'm outside of that bubble wherever I'm at, Legend, because that's that Jersey shit. That Jersey shit is always a be real, Legend. Wherever we at, we outside of that bubble. So the whole world could be on some fuckery shit, but we be like, nah, we all right.
Yeah, that's fact. That's facts. We got the we could do it too mentality.
That's
you know what I'm saying?
That's what I think, Legend. Wherever other people could do, we could do it. New York rocking, and I fuck with New York heavy. My family came from New York, but I'm from Jersey. That's 100%, and I'm never gonna ever deny that shit. So just keep that right. We gotta keep that spirit. So from the bricks, Jersey City, Patterson, Eastwick. If Elizabeth's still known as Eastwick, you already know. Everywhere else, all the way from Camden, Legend. They got all legends out there. Trenton, you already know. They all got their legends. So we still out here. We doing it.
So before we close out the interview, because you were on here with Billion Man Rebellion, I know you remember the rapid fire questions. Would you like to play this game again?
Yeah. I haven't done this in a while, but let's see, Legend. Let's go. I hope I get this right. I'll be fucking shit up, B.
No, it's not even about that. It's about you, and it's about you, your knowledge of the culture, and what you do, and it's to show people that not only are you a real artist, you're a real student and teacher in this game. So you ready to play?
Yeah, let's do this, Legend.
Let's pull up a picture. Bam. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the cover of the album Jegna. And if you see, it has a very pivotal picture in the middle with a globe around the head of the figure. Explain the album cover to me.
Yo, I gotta tell you, the album cover was done by my man Cheese, so he did it. I don't really got all the intricate details or whatever, but I think that he's doing that shit because of the fact that this person is connected to something other than himself. You know what I
Mm,
mean? If you
okay.
look at that thing that is connected at the top, it looks like it's
Mm-hmm.
coming from knowledge that's streaming down from upward and
Mm-hmm.
then going out of whatever it is, and that's what normally a Jegna does. Like as Jegna or Griot, they actually um they're channeling something other than themselves to give them the knowledge so that they can give to the youth for the generations to come. I'm assuming that that's what it is. I will have to ask him because that's crazy. The homie I dedicated a lot of shit to this album specifically, him, Sloan Smith, and all the Jegnas in my life, that he would actually put that album together. So put the album cover together. I'm so happy about that, legend. But I'm great that you even looked at that because I ain't even see that. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, because if anybody ever, you know how we celebrate racism in our culture?
Yes, sir.
We play games like Tomb Raider, we watch
Yeah.
Indiana Jones, and all of that is about people going into the past of the original people who were enlightened, and they take their figures and put them in institutions that are soulless.
Yo, that's deep as hell. Legend, the shit that you be talking about is beyond me. That's so gangster, like what you saying and the way how you worded that. That's wild poetic. Cause I never I do see it like that, but I never seen it the way how you just. It's kind of like you articulated what my idea would be about that those kind of situations. I just never worded it like that. That's gangster.
They give God the glory because if you see, a lot of countries are going to those institutions and taking it back.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
the most exciting thing about this album is this is what hip hop was crafted from, and you're taking it back to the appreciation of what
yeah.
the science of the art is. So I wanted to touch on that because that was dope to me.
That's
You know what I'm
wild
saying?
deep. That's deep, and you made me look into my because there's always a meaning behind stuff, and then how it all plays out. Because the meaning, the words, the music, the sound, and then the album cover itself all comes together to make the psychology of what this project is about. And so, like when the picture was first presented to me by Cheese, quite some time before even the other songs were formulated, I was like, wow, I didn't. I looked at it and I was like, because me and him had a discussion about what Jegna meant and what I wanted to do with the project before the project actually came out. So he took those ideas and then put it into actual illustration. And when I looked at it, I'm like, oh, now I see something. Something is fleshed out. You know what I mean? As time went on, I almost reluctantly didn't do this project. I was so focused on trying to get this uninvited shit out. So when I did the video for the uninvited and I was at Speedy's crib, Speedy was like, "Yo, we got all these other songs. Like, what are we gonna do with that?" And I almost written these songs off because legend. Sometimes I don't be feeling my own shit. I ain't gonna be front. So I was just like, I don't know, man. This shit say mixed down. It's like I'll mix them and I'll master them. I'll put them together because he knows how to do everything. He like a one-stop shop. You
Mm.
know what I'm saying? You know when you got that homie in the hood that he's so talented, but he don't get recognition, legend. You be like, that he'll do everything. He
Hmm.
could video, he could do video, he edits videos, he produces, he directs, he'll do fucking album covers, all type. He's just a whole different level of a human being with so much talent. You know what I'm saying? So I was just like, fuck it, let's see what happens from here. Cause the uninvited wasn't all the way done yet. And then when
Mm.
I saw him starting to mix them shits and the way how it came out, and then we did the intro to Jegna, which came later. The intro is the last song on the project,
Mm.
really, that was created. And I shouted him out, his family, because I personally know his family. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
it ended up taking on a life of its own. Cause I didn't know that if this project was going to be, you know what I mean? When I got I'm still with BMR, but when I started doing my own solo shit, I didn't think like probably I can't be the CF I was before the BMR shit. Cause you get used to doing shit with the homie that you
Okay.
don't know how to do shit on your own. And so when I started doing shit on my own, like I had to buy my own. I used to record in T-Script. I didn't have my own equipment. I had to buy my own Mac OS, buy Logic, and then buy a microphone with an audio interface and put the Chaotica eyeball on top of it. And that's when I started recording on my own. I didn't have that capability before. Even
Mm.
when I was rocking, and as an artist, as a man in general, you should have your own shit. You know what I mean? Or as an individual, women or men. I'm not trying to make this
Yeah, you got it.
gender, folks. You know the deal. But like you should always have your own shit. in order for you to feel, because you shouldn't be independent on or codependent on someone, but you shouldn't be super independent. You should be interdependent. Everyone should work autonomously, and then when they get together they form like motherfucking Voltron, you know what I'm saying, or like, you know, Devastator or something like that. But we are all interdependent. And so when I thought about it, I was like, yo, I gotta get my own shit. And you know how what really got me on my own shit is COVID, because through COVID you couldn't really go to nobody's crib, you know what I'm
Right.
saying, because everybody was scared. How many, yo, that's a pivotal moment now that we caught and we have this on documented. You remember when they talking about hip hop, and that during the blackout, so many people got access to recording equipment and DJ equipment because of the blackout. They were robbing shit and going
Hmm.
there. What did COVID do for people that started to record through these podcasts, through these Zoom sessions, through having their own stuff? How many people created their own studios because of that? And how much music came about from that because they had all this time to think about. You know what I'm saying? That's a whole different topic that no one, I don't know if anyone addressed and shit like that. But I was one of those people. So like during that time period, and that's the innovate. That's beautiful. That's how hip hop came about too, right?
Hmm.
Out of something like that. So that's how
Hmm.
my hip hop came about too. So I just started rocking and recording by myself, and I was still self-conscious about like the way how shit sounded because I didn't have an engineer or someone to master it. That's the one thing an artist really has to do. They always got to rely on someone else to do other stuff that you, I would rather do everything on my own.
Hmm.
But I'm glad that I got the homie Speedy and he seen it. He actually loved the tracks himself or whatever. And you know, we made it and it came out to what it is. Like it wouldn't have even happened, Legend, if Speedy ain't been like, yo, we could do this. You know
All
what I mean?
right.
And I was like, all right, so let's do it then. And then when the Chiefs put the album cover been out for a while, but it just wasn't colored in. She's
Hmm.
already worked on that. And I don't know, I got re-inspired and shit like that. And you know, now we rocking. Now we where we at now, Legend.
And
I'm
that's
just
what's
being
up.
I'm
Love
being
it.
wild real with you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I love it. But I
Word.
want to go back into the past a little bit.
Yeah.
The road, Sojourns.
Word. That's wild long ago. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The road was a gangsta ass. On the low, it was a low key gangsta album and shit. Facts. Piece to Creative Juices, because I dropped that project through them. Facts.
Well, after BMR, I went back and got all y'all albums.
Oh,
So,
great looks, yo.
like I'm on my other computer. It's on this side that you can't see. So I'm looking at Sojourns. I'm looking at High featuring Dante.
Yeah. And
I'm
you could
looking at Iceman. You know
you
what I mean?
yo, there was some low key dope fucking songs on that shit that people don't know about. You know what I'm saying? But so Jersey, you know, that was about obviously Jersey. My man Brown 13 produced that project. Now he works as a DJ for Crime Apple. I don't know if you ever heard Crime
Yeah, I know
Apple
Crown Apple.
before.
Yeah.
So he's like a producer and DJ for Crime Apple now. But at that time he had a show in Jersey called Turntablism Show or whatever, and they highlighted a lot of artists from Jersey, and you know he was accessible and shit like that. So he ended up, you know, producing. That's when he started getting into his production run, and you know he gave me a couple beats, and he was, you know, very appreciative of me just rocking to that record. We came out with that. He did High too with featuring Dantique, which gives you insight to like how like pre BMR shit, but how like the idea of BMR was about to
Hmm.
come about and stuff like that. So it was a gangster. And there was a whole bunch of songs on that record that are a little bit different. When I take time and I look at it, I'll be like, damn, y'all was I feel like that was an incomplete album, even though it was an album,
Okay.
because I felt like there was so much I had to in the future to evolve. Now that I'm evolved and shit, I look back at it and I'll be like, there's a lot of stuff that I could have done differently on this project or even the pre-project before that. Storm Mode, Storm Mode was a deep project too and shit like that. Storm Mode was mad deep because of the fact that I was talking about a lot of stuff. I highlighted a lot of my indigenous ancestry on Storm Mode too, because the last verse was about, you know what I mean, native customs and stuff like that. Because I did travel to like the Gathering of the Nations in New Mexico, and I was the only person to speak about Taino culture. You know what I mean? Because Puerto Rico is obviously mixed between Black, Indian, and white, and we rep our ancestry equally And especially now in this day and age, you know what I mean? There's like a resurgence because of these genetic tests that reconfirms that we are triracial people, no matter
Hmm.
how our colors are. But just because I'm triracial doesn't, some people end up saying, "Oh, well, I'm not racist. Look, I'm mixed." No, 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 fuck out of here. You could be racist and still be mixed, because a lot of times people will say that at the expense of people who are distinctly black looking in Puerto Rico or white looking in
Hmm.
Puerto Rico. So you know what I mean? You gotta like honor all your ancestors and then honor all your peoples at the same time, because they all part of you and you all part of them. It is what it is. But I know that specifically on the Storm Mode project, I was really deep in that, in my indigenous shit for some reason. I know that I went to 2009 with Immortal Technique and we traveled to the Gathering of Nations, and I had that New Mexico hit where it got that Jim Morrison feel in the desert shit when he started like talking to natives and all that, and that's what I was feeling. I was feeling that wild connection. You know what I mean? I'm not in Africa. I'm not in Europe. I'm in the Americas. So a good portion of my blood is in the Americas. But the African shit still lives on through hip hop, and the European shit still lives on by the way I look type shit. So it's really ill when you tap into your three ancestral groups, because it's bugged out depending on the place you go. You know that you tapped in wherever you go because of these three people. It bugged the fuck out, B. And
Yeah.
that's how I was feeling when I went to New Mexico. And so when I did that, I wrote that song. I think it says goodbye or something like that. It's like the end of the end of it ends up the album. All of these little things were done. There has to be an introduction, legend, and there has to be an outro. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
That's normally what I think as a purist. Like if I'm thinking doing a hip hop album from a folklorist point of view, and we doing it and we thinking like the Smithsonian sponsoring this shit might be in the Library of Congress. Got to be an intro, got to be an outro, and then you have to have separate tracks out there to display different different content, whether you got your ideas when it comes to subject matter, and then you have like different styles, because there's different styles to reflect of rhythmic styles, how you rapping, uh double entendres, metaphors. There's a lot of that goes into doing a record. I look at like Lupe Fiasco records, and his records be fucking phenomenal and shit like that. And the brother takes a lot of time. He looks like he really goes in and he has to isolate himself somewhere far just for him to make sure that he creates a record, because there's so much intricacy in it. It's so much deepness. It's so layered. It's multifaceted. It's crazy all the shit that we put into our music and it doesn't go nowhere sometimes. And we just do it because we know that that's what we love to do. You know what I mean? Even though we ain't gonna get anything back from it. That's the true essence of an artist, and that's the true essence of the music when you hear it from that artist, because you already know that there's nothing that they're doing for that's gonna compromise the message that they put on record. If that,
Facts.
I hope that makes sense, Legend.
It does. Because I wanted to shout out Voodoo Economics. That was my joint on there. You know what I
Yo,
mean?
Voodoo Economics was gangster because I did that shit. And this is because of the Bush era. You already, son. Like I was working for Comcast, and I was about to get promoted from working in the outage management group to actual help desk as a tech support rep. Helping computers, because that's what I went to school for initially and shit. But 2008, the depression, the recession, sorry, that occurred from that, the after effect put a hiring freeze, and that shit fucked like a career move for me, specifically because of Bush and his fuckery and shit like that. Then we went to 9/11 because of false pretenses and weapons of man. That shit is just a big Manchurian candidate situation like that. So I was disillusioned with what I saw, what was going on at the time, and I needed to speak about it on record. You know what I mean?
So check this out, y'all. The rapid fire questions was all summed up and all that, and we did a great job. You know what I'm saying? But there's three things I want to touch. One, I owe you an apology. I'm gonna tell you why. I wanted to put out something for Heritage Hip Hop, and it was two songs I really wanted to do. My dream was to have my favorite hip hop artist do something for Heritage Hip Hop, right?
Yeah,
And my one favorite thing I wanted to do the Artifacts, an Artifact song for Heritage Hip Hop. And unfortunately, Tame passed away.
yeah,
So that hit my heart very hard. As you know, they're my favorite hip hop group from Jersey. Second, I wanted to put the Artifacts with BMR. on Heritage Hip Hop. And unfortunately, things come up with money, there's family issues. It takes a lot. The life of an artist is extreme to me because y'all have to get money up to do this and do that. And I respect the
Yeah.
hell out of y'all for that. And my apologies to you is I didn't make that happen because I know what it would have meant for y'all. You would have known. You don't know how much that would have meant to me. So that was the first thing I want to apologize to you for,
Legend,
and respectfully.
I think that you ain't even got to apologize. Just the idea alone is just a wild respect from my part because, to me, shit, I remember hearing Artifacts on the Wrong Side of the Tracks on Bobito and Stretch, 89.9, back in like 94, I believe, Legend. You know what I'm saying? It's before there was a Hot 97 type shit. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Jersey was already, the fact that they highlighted Jersey on Bob and Stretch, because I think that's where they really got their exposure from
Right.
me knowing it. You know what I'm saying? And then to know that somebody, you got the Outsiders, you guys, all these legendary groups that come specifically out of the bricks. The bricks is mainly like the layers when it comes to hip hop in Jersey. Jersey City wasn't really known except for you got Apache, you got Chill Rob G. Chill Rob G still a GOAT. He's still doing his numbers. He did a joint with R.A. the Rugged Man and shit like that, and it killed it. But when you talk about like the Artifacts, like come on, that's Legend. That's just the way how Tame rode on the track, the way how the other legend who's still out there doing it.
Yeah,
Like he's
Sensei,
still
salute.
the sensei. He came up to me one day. He the god. He the god. To people, they don't know because they look outside of this hip hop shit. To me, that's a god. You know what I mean? Because I know the deal. Like he the Jegna, he the griot, he the top. This is the way I look at it, Legend.
Yeah.
So when I talked to him and he was telling me, he's like, you know what, yo, he's like, whatever y'all need, I got y'all. Like whatever it is, it is. I see that y'all been putting your work. Like he been knew of us, and I'm like, for the Legend to know of me. Just recently, Ari the Rugged Man gave me a shout. Talik Kweli gives me shouts here and there. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm like, these are the gods. And when they give me a shout, that should put me at a certain level, like not no arrogant shit, but grateful that the gods that's out there that everybody looks at people like us from Jersey and be like, nah, they got some spitters out there. That's one of them. You know what I'm saying? That shit is what we do this shit for, Legend. It ain't for the money, it's for the recognition, it's for the fact that we want to be up there in the Hall of Fame with the greats. We want Jersey to be known with the greats. You know what I mean? And when I look at the Artifacts and BMO, that shit would have been gangster. I'm so amazed that a person like you who has a lot of perspective, who knows hip hop and who knows Jersey that well, would even put BMR in that light, Legend. But the history behind BMR and behind who we are and shit like that. So it wouldn't be something like that's not mismatched. But not everybody would or has that insight to know that. So when I hear you talk, like that shit got me like, wow, yo, this is crazy, that you would even think that or equate the two. And to me, I'm very humble and wild grateful for that compliment. That's a compliment to me,
Appreciate that.
Legend. So you don't even gotta apologize, because just the idea alone makes me feel like a better human being, if that makes any sense. And rest in peace to Tame. That's a fact.
Facts. And but being that we still have some time on God's earth, as long as He allow us, the Most High gives us the time. We gonna get something done. And shout out to Stress and shout out to Stan Ipkiss. And I talked to Don T, and he said, as long as the beat is fire, we got you.
Yeah, I mean, I record out of my crib. He record out of his crib, so it ain't nothing for us to lay down a verse. You know what I mean?
So check this out. I'm putting it out there. I already got something cooking, but I know y'all say y'all work to get these things done. I want to put some money in to fund the BMR album. I got two producers. No, I'm serious. Like, look, I'm gonna put it out there because all the artists, everybody tell all the artists I mess with for real, I don't mind giving my money. And it ain't even about, this is the Heritage Hip Hop album. It's really about appreciation. And Double O is now in Atlanta, and I wanted Double O to do something with, like I said, that stuff going. But Double O, we lost Tame. You know what I'm saying? And there's great artists out here I believe in, like BMR, Malk. I believe in Samaj Savage. I love Poppy Stores. I love Drift. It's so many people, Rap Villain and all that. And that I wanted my platform to not be like some other platforms I've seen. I do this for a reason, because some other platforms started the platform to be artists. I don't want to be an artist. I want to highlight the artist. That's why I've always said I want to be the Ralph McDaniels of New Jersey. Ralph didn't drop no
Wow, that's
album.
great.
He ain't drop
Yo,
no album. He put people out, and that's
legend,
what I
when
was
you
going to be
say
doing.
Ralph McDaniels, like, come on, you know how I got put on the hip hop, like from my cousin who lived in, they was out in Hoboken projects and shit like that. They put me on to, when you ain't got cable and shit. I ain't had cable. Channel 31,
That's it.
Video Music Box,
That's
Nervous
it.
Thursdays, Old School, Mondays,
Yeah, Tasty
Tasty
Tuesdays.
Tuesdays,
Yeah,
Billy, Tuffy,
yeah.
you already,
Skeletor,
you
Crazy
already,
Sam.
Crazy Sam.
Yeah, yeah.
That's all I know, legend. So you know what I mean? I come from that era, and when I look at Ralph McDaniels, I'm like, that's a god to me. To other people, be like, who fuck?
That's
Nah,
the god
legend.
of
Like,
hip hop for me.
you know what I'm
Everybody can talk
saying?
about the
So
rap and all that, but him,
when you say that, you already know that you on the right path because you already talking about the shit that we know. Like the shit we talk about, legend, me and you understand. Like I'm
yeah.
44, I don't look it, you know what I mean? Wild lung, but I'm 44, legend. So I already, you know where I'm coming from with this. You already know the years I put in this shit. So I already know what you saying. So we have an understanding that we know because we love the foundation of this shit. You know what I mean? We love where this is from and we love where it's coming, what it can possibly do to change people's lives, to make people better human beings and shit like that. So when I see what you're saying, like Ralph McDaniels, that's crazy. But with BMR, let it be known, like I'm out here, I got another album out to drop. And then me and T, we gonna get back in the lab and we gonna rock BMR. I know he's doing something with like June Star and them, you know what I mean?
Shout
But
out to June Star.
with BMR though, we never, that should never stop. Cause when you hear BMR record and when you see BMR perform, you already know what it's about. You already know the energy is gonna be transformative. It'll be, I mean, it could be a life transformative experience just to be at an event with BMR because our performance is high energy, impactful, and very spiritual. You know what I mean? Like
Facts.
Don Teak, he comes from the Manguel family that are very known and very deep in Afro Puerto Rican traditions. There isn't any bomba player or person or plena or whatever that is not known to not have that surname. All the greats within that community of keeping African traditions from Puerto Rico, last name is Manguel. So he
Mhm.
has that musical shit that goes back to then to now. He just did it from, the bomba shit to rap. You know what I mean? I wish I had a musical legacy like that. Like I don't, my family don't. There wasn't only my great grandfather. You know what I'm saying? And he was straight Indian looking that used to play the guitar and shit like that. The more black side of my family coming from my father's side, but ain't none of them was playing plena and bomba like that. Not that I know. You know what I mean? So that musical tradition wasn't in me. His musical traditions predate all of this shit. So just like I said with Albial, whose father is from Sweet Slick and Sly, which was one of the first hip hop groups in Jersey City. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Some people have a musical legacy. Some of us have to create it from scratch. Like, you know what I mean?
And
So it is what it
sometimes,
is.
the payoff. Everybody's the last generation, but who's the influence? That's the first. You feel me?
All facts, legends.
Yeah.
So you already know. But like when BMR get together, Teak having his legacy, me be doing what I'm doing. Teak put me on the shit because he was signed before I was ever signed. Because he used to
Mm.
be signed to Epic Street on Sony Records.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So that's how we got to where we at now. You know what I mean?
So y'all check this out. We about to close out, but before we do, let me do some banners and some shout outs. Everybody that's watching, thank you for listening to the Heritage Hip Hop Podcast,
All
whether you're
facts.
viewing it on YouTube or you're streaming this on your favorite podcast streaming sites, whether that's Apple, Anchor.fm, Spotify, iHeartRadio. We there. So wherever you at, we there. As long as you got a phone and someplace to listen to your podcast. I want to highlight this on May 6th. I'll be doing T&L Talk one-on-one, marketing versus promotion. And I'll be there with Minnie, multimedia maven, Seti P, aka Cedric Perry, artist, manager, CEO, Divine, creativity coach, and of course me. I'm the music solution specialist. So we're going to be talking about how to help artists become the greats monetarily from my end, but also to influence those with the art, not just put art out to be freely consumed. Because today people rent their art, they're not buying their art. And we want to make sure that people appreciate the art as well. Please be sure to subscribe Once again, please subscribe to heritagehiphop.com. We are available on all social media, and we have a website, heritagehiphop.com. We are the home of the Mike Council, Blurred Hop, the podcast, and our new show, ANN and R&B, which is R&B Talk with a Hip Hop Soul. I'm the Hip Hop Soul, of course. So we talk about some things like that. And most importantly, we want you to buy Jegna, because if the internet ever went down or the power grid shut down and you still have a little bit of power and you need music, it's better to own your music, because if you rent it, whenever they pull the plug, you don't have your music anymore.
That's deep.
This is an album worth buying, so make sure you get it. Last two questions. One is a throwaway, one is real. The throwaway question is, how did you like returning to Heritage Hip Hop? Would you like, what would you think for other people who had to come on the platform?
Man, I think that a lot of but from what right now, what I've seen, like having me come up in here and the questions that you have, very insightful. Like it looks like you seasoned for this. This is what you do. You know what I'm saying? I know that I came here before with Don Cheek. You know what I mean? I haven't seen that many other interviews with other heads. I'm just being real with you. You know what I mean? But like from what I see, like this platform deserves. I mean, it's dope where it's at, and it deserves way more notice than it is. Anything that I could do to my capacity to make sure that other people know about it, I definitely will do. You know what I mean? If I could get other people, even tell like communicate with Chino XL, other Jersey artists, and be like, yo, you know what? You should definitely talk to these people, come on here, because of the fact that this is an institution. This is more like, you know, a preservation of the culture of the state of New Jersey, and you would want to be on here because this is something that's going to be documented for years and years to come, from generations in from Jersey to see. You know what I mean? So like, I like everything that you do. I like the platform. You know what I mean? Everything's good. The audio is good. We talking, and the questions that you ask, Legend, are straight to the point. Like, and they just deep, and they highlight the record. You know what I mean? They highlight and they accentuate what the music that's coming from the record is out there, because it's already dope, but you make it just doper by asking the key questions that's needed, so that people could be like, what is Jegna, who is CF, where is this going, or you know what, how would this be meaningful to me as a human being? And then I want to thank you for that. Thanks.
Thank you, and give God the glory. So the last question, which is the most important question of every interview, I already asked you about your legacy. Now I'm gonna celebrate you as a warrior, because in a war, everybody wants to highlight the man who swings the sword, but war is highlighted by different facets of the mind. If you consider yourself a warrior, I would be the philosopher, because the philosopher is the thinking portion while you're the muscle. Yet every warrior has a philosophy, and every philosopher has to fight like the warrior to make the one thing come together so that the war can be won. So, given that explanation, here's the question. Today, we live in a war for the mind. And now we even have technology taking on human forms through artificial intelligence to think outside of the body. With hip hop being our salvation to a connectivity to God, how does hip hop, in your opinion, save the mind and not destroy the body of the culture?
Wow, that's really deep. Because of the fact that hip hop in its essence comes from traditions that are way beyond, before all of this technology was created, before all of these other, before the industry came about. If we go into the essence of it, then it will allow us to connect to our true selves. And being connected to our true selves, we can use that as a shield to the world that's coming up, full of fakeness, full of narcissism, full of illusion in the funhouse. If you stick to the core values and the principles and the belief systems of where these, as the essence of where this came from, its purity, then it will guide you through the fuckery of the world to come. And that's what I believe in.
My mic was muted, sorry. With that being said, I'd like to give a shout out to La India Del Sol, who kept saying throughout the whole thing, Jegna album is breezy with the many stars on it. Absolutely
She's
right.
mad real.
Yeah,
She
absolutely
mad
right.
real, always supporting. Like, she been the real. Thank you so much for supporting me since God knows when. Thank you again.
That's what's up. Look, the album is official, and I'm gonna go on. I'm on there and say, y'all, this album might win Heritage Hip Hop Project of the Year.
Shit, I'll be happy as
We
hell.
got
You know
we
what I'm
got
saying,
3
Legend?
locked in already. This is the third one. It's only 2 more spots, and we got until the end of July to lock something down. So for all y'all out there that wants to win and y'all haven't dropped yet, y'all got some stiff competition right here. Right here. Him. Yeah, I can't, but
yeah, legend.
But yo, thank you for joining us on Heritage Hip Hop Podcast tonight. We appreciate the love and we appreciate the your time. Is there anything you want to tell anybody before we get out?
I mean, just hit me up, CF201 on all social media platforms. Jegna is streaming on all streaming platforms, and you know what I mean. Just look me up on my Bandcamp as well, CF201 Jegna. You know, peace to Jersey City, where I represent, and I got another album coming up called The Uninvited. I just dropped a video recently. You could check me out again, CF201 on my YouTube for the recent video that I dropped for the Jegna intro. So we're gonna keep rocking. You already know, Jersey City all day, state of Jersey all day, East Coast hip hop rocking. Let's do this. Facts. My name's CF.
And when I rock for office, he's on the bill.
Yo, good looks, legend.
And with that being said, peace. And
Peace,
we out.
Yo, we out. Thank you, legend. Thank you. Have a good one.